Let's Talk Small Business, the real talk, no BS podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to grow and actually enjoy the ride. I'm Mitchell Wilson. Let's get into it. Jacintha Akinson-Manson, welcome to the podcast. She is a solicitor, a mum, a leader, and a business owner at Atkinson Crehan Law. Welcome to the podcast, and let's talk small business.
Thanks, Mitchell. It's nice to be here this morning.
No, I really appreciate it. So, what I'd love to do, and look, forgive me if I just butt in along the way,
Sure.
but love to hear a little bit about your journey of how you got to being a business owner, where it all started, and I believe you're all the way from Invercargill. Did I say that right? Roll my own.
You did. And you've just got to ask, people say you don't roll your R's, and then I say purple work shirts, and they can hear that southern drawl. So, so I wasn't born in Invercargill. I moved around a lot. My dad was in banking, so I was born in Palmerston North, started school in Dunedin, but spent the majority of my childhood, and my parents and my sister and her family are still in Invercargill. So Invercargill very much is home. After studying at Otago, I started my career in Gore, so stayed in the deep south.
Right. What's the population of Gore? Do we know?
Oh, I don't know what it is, but it's very small. It's a little. Motueka reminds me a lot of Gore, the sort of small town feel. Everyone knows everybody. Everyone, you go to a restaurant for dinner and everyone knows what you had for dinner or what you're up to, and which is fantastic. There's pros and cons to small towns. I did have the choice between, it was actually funny because I had never been to Nelson before I moved here, other than I came up here for a job interview when I finished university and had the opportunity to work primarily doing litigation, but I decided to take a job in Gore doing general practice because I felt it would be better for me to sort of do all areas of law rather than specialising. So I worked in a firm in Gore. I did everything from employment, criminal law, family, property, buying and selling farms. My first week I was in court seeing clients. It really skyrocketed my career, the experience that I got. Yep. A lot of people give small towns a hard time. A lot of graduates don't want to go to them. But just career-wise, experience-wise, it was the best thing I ever did. I was there for 4 years and decided to specialise more in property and commercial type work.
Why? What gave you that?
Move away from the family law stuff. There was a lot of that in Gore. It was just very sad situations. It was stressful. Property stressful, but with money, it's a little bit different to going to hearings and, the outcomes of whether children see their parents or...
I don't think I could handle that personally. Yeah.
No, and I wasn't a parent at that point, but I thought at some point I do want to be a parent. I think I would really struggle. So huge props to all those amazing family lawyers that do that day in, day out. And I jumped on Trade Me, looked up where there were property law jobs, a few in Nelson, came for some interviews and moved here. And like I say, I'd never been here other than for a half a day job interview. But it was the place everyone came to for holidays. It was still in the South Island. Moved here, and I've been here 13 years, nearly 13 years
now. And for those that are listening overseas and there is Nelson, sunniest place in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love Nelson. Can't imagine being anywhere else. So 16 years practicing, which, sometimes feels like a lot longer and sometimes it feels like it was just yesterday that I started. And I moved around a couple of firms in Nelson. At that point in my career, I was looking for more experience. So I'd sort of done my 3-4 years, get my feet. I really was chasing, I want to expand my knowledge base, get some more sort of meatier commercial work. I was figuring out where I wanted to be. Did I want to be Nelson or Richmond based? And then I was working in a Richmond firm for 4 years, and then I had my daughter Annabelle, who's 6 now. So I left that job and then got headhunted to come and work for a firm that was NAPS at the time to head up their property team.
How long were you off work for?
So I went on maternity leave and I went back to work when Annabelle was 6 months. Wow. So I had been approached for the job when I found out I was pregnant with Annabelle, but I was 90% sure I would be a go back to work sooner rather than later type parent. But I wasn't sure. It was a first child, so I didn't want to commit to anything. So I went on maternity leave, and then about 4 months into after Annabelle was born, got approached again from the recruiter, and I was in a headspace to be able to make some decisions. So I came and started with, like I say, it was NAPS in February 2020, which was interesting timing given what happened in March 2020.
COVID, what a stuff
Yeah.
to talk about there. But I'm picturing in my head, you're going to work, you've got this baby. It reminds me of like a Hollywood movie of a supermum trying to do it all.
Yeah, so definitely there's some days you feel like you can do it all, but there's a lot of days that you don't. And it was a really difficult decision putting her into, she was in daycare because my husband was working for as a project manager for a building company at the time. So we both had full-time, very stressful, high-pressure jobs. But she went to the most amazing preschool, loved it. I worked the equivalent of 4 days, but across 5 days, because it's always Murphy's Law. You take a day off and that's the day that everything happens in property law and settlements and those sorts of things. So, and I still do that 4 days across 5 days now.
Yep.
So I had a few afternoons a week that I would go get her from preschool and we'd have some time together, and that was really lovely. But yeah, it's a juggle. The mum guilt, the parent guilt is real. It's definitely a real thing.
Well, let's get back to this COVID thing. So you're in interesting time, especially in law, because there are a few things that people probably haven't even thought about at that stage.
Yeah, and a lot of and it's the same in business. A lot of your terms and conditions and contracts, they evolve when events happen, and you realise, we didn't actually have anything in our contract that was fit for purpose to cover that situation. Occupation right agreements after the Christchurch earthquakes, they changed a lot because they didn't have anything to cover what happens if people can't live in their villages. And it was the same with COVID and property law. So I've started a job 6 weeks in, heading up the property team. I think we all expected that the property market was just going to absolutely crash. I was like, I'm last on, I'm a higher paid employee. There's no way I'm going to have a job in a few months. And instead, the absolute opposite happened. The property market went crazy. But what we were dealing with was people who were trying to move house, people who were trying to confirm conditions that required inspections or people to be able to physically do things. And there was nothing in the contracts that provided for that. So the Law Society had to very quickly kind of grapple and come up with some guidance. And they did come up with a clause that's now standard for pandemics in the sale and purchase agreements. But there was a period of a couple of weeks where every lawyer was sort of fight for yourself, see what you can negotiate. And like all people and all personalities, some were a lot more amenable to making things work than others. But you had all sorts of situations that you were dealing with. You had people who had empty houses and people that weren't needing to move in. So settlements in that situation could happen. We had people who were trying to move and go to, the North Island or come from the North Island to the South Island that couldn't leave their house, so we couldn't settle. We had people trying to confirm conditions, and we might have been able to tick off their solicitor's approval condition, but their builder's report relied on a builder being able to leave his home and go into the house. So it was a moving feast, and my role was the head of the property team. So I had eight or nine people in my team. So they've all got settlements. We're all working remotely from our own homes. We all had our own different circumstances. Some were living alone, so you're checking in on people, how they were doing. I had a 7-month-old and my partner's my two stepchildren every second week. So one household with 3 children to entertain, and one we just had a 7-month-old. So it was just really interesting times, and I think it showed a lot about sort of human nature and behaviours. And like I say, we all got through it, but I personally can't work from home now. I'm very clear on home is home, work is work. I'll come into the office rather than bringing work home. Because to be honest, I think I'm a little bit traumatized from having a 7-month-old on the floor crying in the other room while I'm trying to do a Zoom meeting or a call with a client and trying to juggle it all and not doing either particularly well. So I do like to have that definition now because it was really difficult.
So that's a good question, actually. Like you said, you keep work at work, home at home, but you're in a high pressure, high powered job. when you come home, are you one to like just leave that all behind in your happy mum at home, or are you still ticking over in your head? Like, can you actually shut off?
Yeah, so when I say I separate them out, I physically separate it out. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
physically bring my laptop home, but the mental is difficult. It's something I have to try and talk myself through and actively be thinking about, because it's very easy to walk in the door, you've left your laptop behind, but you're still thinking about conversations you might have had, conversations you need to have. You and your business partners are still talking about things or thinking about things.
Mm,
So it is an art. It's definitely something my business partner Amanda has mastered more so than me.
mm,
I do find that part of it difficult. You are still sometimes at times distracted. My husband's really good at calling me out on that, and so
mm.
is my daughter now. She's just kind of like, "Come on, mum, like you're not really kind of here."
Yeah, because I
Um,
do work with so many business owners,
yeah,
and that is one of the biggest problems a lot of business owners have is that they just feel like they go all the time, and it's not good for them, and it's not good for their business. Like you need to
no.
actually break, refresh, come back, and then tackle those problems.
Yeah, it is. It's true. You live and breathe your business, and that's not always the best thing for you or your business. My nervous. People always, they have those like questions that people can ask for icebreakers. If you're an animal, what animal would you be? I always say I'm a duck, because I feel like I'm this super calm person on the outside, but inside my
Yeah,
feet are just going like this. And that's not great for my nervous system. But I'm calm, cool, collected. I've got my poker face on. Everything's fine. And inside, I'm going, holy crap! How am I going to help this person, or how am I going to deal with this situation, or how am I going to do these 5 things that have all come through at once? So I do try and do a lot of work on breathing and trying to, do I have to take a ride around the block before I get home and blast some music? Because the other thing is my work is 2-minute drive from home.
mm.
So I don't have, I've got friends that have got a lot longer commute home, and they really can switch off. So sometimes I do have to sort of drive around the block a couple of times and
You
sort
should
of
be walking to work just about if it's that close.
I can some days, but if I've got to shoot to another office
Yeah.
or if I've got to go see clients. But yeah, it is just creating that kind of habit. How do you fully transition from work to home? And I haven't mastered that at all.
A little bit of the inside of you, if you are blasting music, what kind of music are you listening to?
Oh, anything that's top 40 pop, Lady
Yeah,
Gaga,
right. A little bit of Katy
Beyonce.
Perry or something, or Taylor Swift in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something that's just loud and girl power and just lifts me up, makes me feel like a superwoman, and I can go home and carry that on.
I love it. It's good. Good work. Good idea. So, okay, COVID. What I took out of COVID is the scariness for a lot of people was the uncertainty. You're
Mhm.
sitting there working. You're like, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know whether they're going to have a job. All that kind of stuff. That uncertainty is real scary stuff, isn't it?
It is. And it was interesting because, current times with uncertainties with interest rates and stuff, people have completely pulled back from the property market. Whereas in COVID, it seemed to be, I don't know if it was because people couldn't travel and spend their money on that, but the housing market just seemed to boom. The prices just skyrocketed. It was sort of the exact opposite from what you'd sort of expect with that uncertainty behavior. But it was very unsettling. No one sort of
I'm
knew.
laughing because we were some of those people. We were going to be traveling for a year. And it's like, no, okay, let's build another house.
Yeah, or people were renovating. There was a lot of tradespeople who were working for people and they set up their own businesses because there was so much work. But I guess that was a bubble, and you do have to be in your industries. You need to have gone through at least a 10-year cycle to really understand. Um, when I left university, I graduated in 2008, so we had a global financial crisis. So I've then gone through that. I'm nearly through 2 cycles. So I really do, I guess you panic a lot less, and it's really helpful for you as a business owner. If you can sort of see the trends in your market or see the trends in staff and what factors affect things, because it can be really easy to like knee jerk in those uncertain moments, but you almost need to just sort of be comfortable with being uncomfortable and be uncomfortable with what's not happening next. And that's a tricky thing to do as a lawyer, because we're wired to be across everything, give you every possible scenario, give you a solution to those. And I find myself saying often to clients now, the crystal ball that I requested last Christmas still hasn't arrived. It will be really handy. But there is a lot of uncertainty now. For a while, the property market was, there could be two houses in the same street and one would sell in a week and one would sell in 3 or 4 months. There was this kind of real unpredictability. And it's interesting, my other degree is psychology, and so I do find human behavior and how people react to these sorts of things quite fascinating as well.
Okay, so now you've been at the law firm, head of the division, and now I'm sitting here talking to you, and it's Atkinson Law. It's got your name on the board, on the title, and for me, like, I love suits, all that kind of stuff. That's what I know about lawyers. How do we end up here?
Yeah, so we got through COVID, obviously, and when I joined NAPS, it was always on the cards that I would be progressing towards a partnership. I was at that sort of stage in my career. When I went on maternity leave, I'd been practicing for 10 years. So it was that kind of time to start going, well, where am I going to find a home? So after COVID, and obviously going through that with both my husband and I having very high pressure full-time jobs, knowing that I was moving towards being an employer versus an employee, we had to make some changes personally. We don't have any family here in Nelson. So my husband actually left the building industry completely. He got burnt out. He was a project manager for 10 years, which is a heck of a long time in that industry, let alone with COVID. Took a break for 3 months, and then we decided that he would go back to work part-time, do school hours to support me, then make that transition. So April 2022, I became a partner of NAPS. And then we ended up having a split. So the firm then split. And so for the last 2.5 years, so there were 4 partners of NAPS. 2 of them are now a firm, and then Amanda and I, who were 2 of the partners in NAPS, are now Atkinson-Manson. So she's Amanda Crean, I'm Jacintha Akinson-Manson. So we sort of went with our names for our branding. And so we're a new firm in terms of name, but we have essentially a lot of the same staff from NAPS who are in the Richmond and Motueka office are with us.
Now, I know there's a bigger story there, but we won't talk about that today. Maybe next time.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So Atkinson Law, you're a solicitor. Just educate the uneducated here. Solicitor or lawyer? What's the difference between?
Yeah, the terms are interchangeable. They mean the same thing. There is a difference between a barrister and a solicitor, but the solicitor-lawyer terminology, they're the same. So essentially, a barrister attends at court and can't take direct instructions from a client. They get a solicitor to instruct them. But as a solicitor, I can take direct instructions from clients. So I'm still in the property space with Atkinson-Manson. I still head up our property team. We've got a really busy conveyancing team. And then I also cover everything else property. So I do a lot of commercial work. So people buying and selling businesses, needing their terms and conditions updated, leasing premises, a bit of relationship property when people are separating or want to ring fence assets. A lot of retirement village purchases. We've got a huge market for that here in Nelson. So people selling and going into retirement villages. And then general advice around wills, powers of attorney, all that asset planning stuff that goes hand in hand when you're buying a house or buying a business. You can't think of those things in a vacuum. If you're buying a business, how are you going to be owning your other assets that you have for creditor protection, if that's a concern? Should you be setting up a trust for your house? And then that flows on to, should you have powers of attorney for your business partners if something happens to be able to sign for you? Who's your business partner going to end up in business with if you pass away? Replacement directors. So it's sort of, you can't sort of give just property advice in a vacuum. You've got to sort of be quite general.
Okay. So I guess this podcast mainly about business. So let's zone in on the business side of that. Let's talk about buying and selling businesses, because that's probably, like, for people, that is just as big a decision. or probably some people put more or less thought into buying a business as
Mm.
they do a home. Um, Issues, problems. Some people think it's nice and easy, just like that. What have you seen in your career?
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because the point you make that a lot of people often put, more money into their business than what they do into their house. With a residential conveyancing transaction, you have to have a lawyer. In order to change the title and the ownership, you need to have a lawyer. So you don't have a choice with that process. With buying and selling a business, you don't have to have a lawyer involved. And so often we find, particularly with these businesses where they feel, oh, I know the owner and I'm quite comfortable with it. Sometimes we get people who come to us and they've signed a sale and purchase agreement and just say, oh, could you have a look at this? We've probably
After they find it, right?
have a look at it. We don't want you to do anything, but can you just have a look at it? Or they bring a handwritten kind of agreement and say, is this acceptable? Can we use this? Some want you to do the whole shebang. Others just want, the money to come through your trust account and you'd have a wee look. And I guess it's a difficult job being a lawyer because you don't want to crush everyone's dreams. They're so excited about this business. But I guess we have to inform you so you're making an informed choice. And the reason we know what goes bad is because it has happened. We've seen it. We've had clients come to us because certain situations have happened. So when we say you should get legal advice, so you should be putting it in the standard agreement for sale and purchase of a business because it's got particular protections in it. You should be going through the proper steps. It's not just because we want to take your money. It's because it will give you those protections that you need, and you do need to take it quite seriously. There can be so many different things involved with a business. You might just be buying the assets. So you might be buying a bouncy castle business and you're just buying bouncy castles and the machinery that operates that. You could be buying a business that also has a lease of the buildings. We've got to think about that. You could be buying a business that's got employees that we need to consider. You could be buying a bar and you've got TAB and on licenses and all these other sort of things that you need to tick off to be able to operate that sort of business. So it really is tailored to what you need. And it's fantastic if you and the person that you're buying the business from have sort of had some conversations around what you think, but then really documenting that properly and everyone getting some advice around that and stepping through it just saves you a lot of headache in the long run. There'll be things you may not have thought about. How are you going to deal with the stock? Is it stock that's quite static or does it change every day like a cafe? And we need to sort of allow for that figure might be different. Are you wanting to buy the stock? Are you not? Is the lease got a year to go and you need to negotiate a longer term? All of those sorts of things are really important, and they may not apply to every business. But yeah, we do find people take it are a lot more casual about it in some situations. And then you obviously have the other side of buying businesses that we see as people buying shares into businesses. Mm-hmm. So a lot of employees, they might be for succession reasons, purchasing businesses in sort of a step block. So buying 20% now, another 10% in a year's time or whatever. So again, that really does require specialist legal advice because you're going to be entering into shareholder agreements, the rules of engagement with you and these new business owners. You really need to have done your due diligence, not just on the financial side of the business, but who are you going into business with? What decision making will you be involved with? Will you get a say? Will you be a director straight away or in taking on liability? How are you going to buy in? How is that going to be funded? So yeah, there's a lot to think about. So those are the two scenarios we have.
Because it's all good, like any kind of business purchase, until it's not.
Exactly.
And that not can cost people thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, and it's the same as going into a relationship. Like you don't go into a relationship expecting that it's going to blow up, but you can have a work divorce. It's just like you can have a personal divorce. And if you've set the rules of engagement up front, this is what's going to happen if we have a disagreement or something happens in life and one of us wants out. If you've set those rules up from the get-go, if you've worked out how the shares are going to be valued, how are you going to be paid back, all of those sorts of things, it makes it so much easier to just go, well, look, things aren't working. Let's part our ways. Here's this document that we signed when we were happy. It now prescriptively sets out what needs to happen. There's no arguments. So it's not that we're trying to take your money. It's we see that these things go wrong. And even if there's two of you, you might say, well, look, there's no way we would ever disagree on anything. We don't need this document. Well, if there's only two of you and you can't agree on something, you're at a deadlock. You haven't got anyone else to come in there. And also, if you want to grow your business, it might be fine for the two of you, how you've got things structured, but you really need to think about, if we're going to bring in more business partners, you should be setting the rules and having those conversations and having it documented. How are they going to buy in? How are they going to exit? All of those things, because your business isn't going to be attractive to anybody to buy or buy into if you haven't got those things sorted. So it's just sort of that housekeeping, being an adult, putting your big pants on and having those conversations and getting it documented while things are good, while you're in that honeymoon phase and you think, oh, nothing possibly could go wrong.
Now, you went through this process yourself when you're in the business and you went into a director. I'm interested, did you take separate legal advice or did you take your own legal advice on that?
Oh, the worst thing you can do as a solicitor is take your own legal advice. So no, we have gotten separate legal advice. I think it's with anything, when you're too close to something, whatever you're giving advice on, if I was a doctor and I wouldn't be diagnosing myself, because I think when you're too close to something, you miss things or you interpret things how you want it to be interpreted. It's just human nature, your side of the story, you feed that narrative and that becomes your truth. So sometimes having objectivity is really helpful. And I think that's where solicitors also come in with advising people on business, or advisors like yourself. You're not part of the business. You can really come in and go, well, I appreciate that you're saying this and you're saying this, and this is your perspective and these are your goals, but have you thought about this? And I think it's a smart thing for people to do. You should have a good team around you, which is a good accountant, a good lawyer, a business advisor, just those people that can kind of keep you in check.
No, I like it. Now, I'm just looking at your website over here, where expertise and empathy go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know what a lot of people the jokes about lawyers and trusting lawyers and all the rest. That's the headline on your website, where expertise and empathy. Why the empathy side of things? Is that true to you, or how'd that come about?
Yeah, so I think it's very important to me. I think it's recognizing, it's that head-heart thing, and it's recognizing that we're all just human and sort of wanting to take down that barrier of, previously going to your lawyer, it was such a big thing. You got dressed up, you wore your finest gears, you walked in, your lawyer was all suited up, it was all very serious. It was like, your highlight of the week, you had to go in and see your lawyer. And I think there's a lot of barriers there about people being scared about lawyers. Are they going to understand? Are they just going to be all business? But we're humans as well. We've all gone through things. We've, either had children, we've either had work divorces or personal divorces, or some of us have had both. We've all lost people, or we've had people that have gone sick. So, those things that you're coming to see us, whilst you might feel, embarrassed or like you're alone in that, a lot of those things we really can empathize with, and we like to put ourselves in their shoes and go, well, if this was me, how would I want to be treated in this situation? And about giving them the advice, but also recognizing it might not be the time to give them, all of the legality stuff now. It might just be they just need to come in, get everything off their chest, and then you go back to them and you give them that information. So it's just, I guess, we're all human. I'm no different to my client. My client's no different to me. So it's just about breaking down that barrier. We're not up here on these pedestals anymore.
I like you say anymore, and it's really refreshing, like simply just even having a conversation like this with you, because I have also come across the old school, grumpy old lawyers that do put themselves on the top of a pedestal, and you do feel to ask questions and all the rest, it just feels scary, maybe. So it's really refreshing to actually have this change in lawyers or solicitors like yourself and firms like yourself that makes it like that. You can just go ask and maybe ask silly questions that you think are silly, but you really need to know the answer to.
Yeah, and often what we might think is a silly question really isn't a silly question at all. We're doing this day in, day out. But if I go to see someone whose area of expertise is not mine, I feel exactly the same way. I'm like, can I even ask that question? Like, is that going to be a stupid question? Because I don't know everything. And it is, it's just about going, well, we're not superhumans. We have a set of skills which we've had to train and work really hard for, and it's not a set of skills that everybody has, and we can help people with that, but we don't want it to be a barrier. Amanda and I do a lot of talking in the community. We do a lot of educating, giving back, because we think, we should be breaking down that barrier between legal advice. We want people to get the right legal advice. We don't want them to go on the community page and ask everyone, because everyone's experience is different and their circumstances are different. We want it to be accessible, that you can come along, you can hear us speak, you can ask some questions, we can build a relationship with you. I think also where we're different is we do a lot of marketing and a lot of advertising. A lot of law firms traditionally haven't done that. There are a lot more now that are jumping on that bandwagon. Again, I think it was this whole mentality that we're really important. People have to use us for certain situations. I can just sit in my office with my, office, nice view of the harbour, and people will just come to me because they have to use me. But I'm very mindful. There's so many other law firms in Nelson. There's so many other law firms in New Zealand now with technology that do conveyancing. So I can't just sit in my office and expect, people are just going to come to me because they have to use me. I need to be out there. I need to be giving back to people. I need to be showing that I'm an expert, making people feel that they would be comfortable coming and talking to me, being relatable, all of those things. You do have to chase work now. We're selling our time. And I think a lot of lawyers just go, well, I don't need to do anything. But you really do have to think about it a bit like any other sales job. You're building pipeline of work, and I've got a team of people. And so why would you come to our firm? Why would you come to me when so many other lawyers are offering the exact same services? And you do have to be constantly thinking about the client experience. I saw something the other day on Facebook, and it really resonated with me. It was like, your smile is your logo, your personality is your business card, and how you leave others feeling after an experience with you is your trademark. And that really resonated with me, because how I make people feel really is how I represent myself as their solicitor. I'll give them really good advice, but I'm also relatable. I'm a human. I get what they're going through. I know what they're worrying about. I get that they're worrying about what this is going to cost. I get that they're worrying about how long this is going to take, because I would be worrying about the same things.
It makes me smile just listening to you about that, and your personality really, really comes through. So yeah, I agree with that. So you mentioned before about the business. Okay, so a lot of people, like you said, they used to wear their lawyer badge on them, but now you've got a few different badges. One of them being your lawyer solicitor's badge, second one being a business owner. So, like you said, you've probably got a different point of view in the law firm, and it probably needs to be like that nowadays. How much of your time, or how do you think about business? How do you split between running the business and doing what you do?
Yeah, so we've grown really quickly, and we've got 2 directors and a general manager, and we've now got close to 30 staff in 3 offices. So we've grown really, really quickly. So I don't think we've quite nailed yet that balance between how much work we should be doing as business owners on the business and how much work we should be doing in the business. We've got a lot of legal work, so often that work takes priority, but that's not necessarily where our focus should always be.
I better come and talk to you after this podcast, hey?
I was just thinking that as I said that, I could see your eyes sort of gleaming. Yeah, so we're working on getting that structure right so that we can spend more time as business owners. So yeah, definitely I'm no expert on that. It's interesting making that transition from an employee to an employer was really tricky. Getting your head around, these people you still work with these same people, but the relationships changed. You're not their colleague anymore. That you're now their boss. The conversations that you were part of, the invitations to dinner, after work drinks, that changes. And it does become quite a lonely role. And I'm a very social person and I love people. And I did really struggle, and sometimes I still do really struggle with that. I have an amazing
business.
It's
not you. It is just a position.
Yeah. It is. And I have an amazing business partner, and she's been doing this a lot longer than what I have, and is just way more comfortable with that sort of stuff, and it just keeps me really grounded with that, and I can talk to her about things. But it does really become it's you and her. You're a much smaller group, and so it can be really difficult if you feel quite isolated and you're going, is it me? Is it personal? And you kind of have to step back and go, no, it's not you. It's not personal. And you're making very different decisions. I remember when I was the team leader and, you'd be asking the partners, oh, my team should get this and we should be having this. And then as a partner or a director of the business, you're going, okay, well, I can understand that that person wants that, but if we give them that, that's then going to affect 4 other people over here. And we're solving one problem, but creating 6 others. And that's the stuff that the staff don't get. That when you're an employer, you're very much like, this is me, this is my career, my desk, what works for me. And as a business owner, you're having to make decisions that are about everybody and the greater good. And how do you make those decisions and get the balance right to keep people happy and satisfied in a market that is really difficult to get staff, qualified professional staff. And I know lawyers aren't the only area that struggle. In Nelson, I don't know why people don't want to come to Nelson. If people wanted to end their career here, and if I wanted a law firm full of 50 plus lawyers, it would be amazing. But graduates, they want to go to those big cities and they don't really see the benefit to coming to those provincial areas. So you're constantly juggling. How do you manage all of these people? How do you make decisions that are for the business with your own workload, with your own family as well? Like I say, I'm not an expert in how I do that. Some days I do everything amazingly well. Some days my work is amazing and my personal life is shambles. Sometimes I'm acing life as a mum and a partner, and work is another story. So, but I think people just need to know, like, the struggle is real, whether you are heading up a law firm, whether you've got a fish and chip shop, whether you're running a bar, whether you're a business coach. The same thoughts and the same things. And so it's really important to be able to talk to other people and realize you're not alone and it's all normal. And the things that you're worrying about and thinking about are the same things that other people are worrying and thinking about.
Okay, if we were to just pick some employee from, one of your team members, maybe one of the newer ones, how do you think they would describe your culture within your business? Not how you would describe it. How do you think they would describe it?
Gosh, that's a good question. It's a difficult one because I think we've got different generations. So I think some of the older generations would describe it quite differently to some of the newer generations because they're looking for different things. I think they would say that we have a very supportive environment and an environment where there isn't a glass ceiling. If you want to, we've had PAs who have gone on their legal execs who have then gone and studied and gotten their law degrees while working for us. So they're sort of, I think they would find it a sort of very growth orientated, supportive environment.
No, I like it. And what do you think's the best investment you've made in yourself and or in your business lately?
So after COVID, one of the other bonuses that came out from COVID was obviously the use of technology, and we've really embraced that. Our general manager's massive on innovation. So when we started up Atkinson Korean, we went to a completely cloud-based system, and we were one of the first law firms in Nelson to do that. And jumped off having desktop phones and run everything through our computers, went paper light, new banking system. So I think investing in technology, AI is a big thing. I don't think we can ignore it. We have to really embrace it and go, well, how's that going to enhance our business, not be worried about it taking our jobs. So having that innovative mindset for our business has been fantastic. I've also done some personal coaching and business coaching. So that's been a mix of coaching around leadership and leading my team, but also understanding myself and my own behaviors, and which has been invaluable because I think we always need to be understanding ourselves and growing, and not always knowing that we've got, how I lead people now might be very different in 5 years' time. And so I can't sort of keep doing what I have been doing and expecting the same results. You've got to be adaptable. And that's not something that, again, being a lawyer, you're very rigid. You like to have the structure. And so I've needed some support around that. So I think, investing in myself and my own personal development, but investing in technology for the business have been, I guess. And
it's amazing because you've grown. I mean, you're doing amazing. So, Tweet, you just mentioned about that AI. Now, I took my son to the doctor the other day, and I could sort of see what the doctor was doing on his computer.
Okay.
And he Googled, not like some special doctor site or anything like that. It was an actual Google. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so that was a little while ago, Google. Now we've got AI. how do you feel about someone just asking AI the same questions that they would a lawyer? Do you see a future like that? Do you see a place? How do
Yeah,
you
I
see it
think
playing out?
Yeah, I think people want information and they want it now, and they can get a lot of information from like ChatGPT or those sorts of providers. I
Mm-hmm.
guess they do have to be careful of the source of that information and verifying it. I think that it's going to be immensely helpful for lawyers in terms of speeding up productivity of things, so that we can be more competitive in pricing. If there's things that we can really commoditize, and then we can be competitive and pass those costs on to people. I think there's always going to be an element of, with particular things, people are going to want to come and talk to a person. If you're going through a divorce, yes, you might want to be able to find out some initial things. But there are a large element of those sorts of things is just being able to download, have talked to somebody about what's going on face to face, have someone sort of empathize with you, look you in the eye. So I'm not sure that anytime soon it's going to replace that completely, unless we get replaced by robots that people come in and see. But people are able to draft contracts, get terms and conditions, get some quick legal advice from it. And so if we don't really recognize that that's the environment we're now in and use it to where we can in our business, like I say, to commoditize and speed things up and be more efficient and be more competitive, we're just going to get left behind.
Yeah, no, I like it. Okay, you mentioned your husband a couple of times, so big shout out to Tony.
Yeah.
And he himself is a business owner now.
Yeah, so he
Really?
started up
So
his own
tell us
business.
what he's doing, because he's been around to my house. Not sure whether it was within this business, but what's he up to?
Yeah, so when he left the building industry, he went and installed curtains for a local curtain company, 9 till 2:30. And he was an ex-joiner, so he was a joiner by trade, super handy guy. He's built me a fantastic laundry in our house, done all our house renovations. And so he's actually started up his own handyman business called Off the List.
Off the
Um,
list. Yeah.
yeah, so we all have that to-do list, that those jobs that we just need, or your wife wants you to get off the list. Like, come on, can you
Yeah.
just do this? And it's those really small things that you feel a bit silly about ringing a builder or ringing a painter to come in. Can you just come and fix this little hole in the laundry? But that little hole in the laundry, your wife has been going on and on about, for the last 2 years. So that's really where Tony comes in. Those jobs where the builders are not available, he can come in, he can patch a hole, he can sand it, he can jib stop, he can paint, he can get those sorts of things done for you. So he started that business about 3 or 4 months ago.
Cool.
It gives him the flexibility to still work school hours, have the time for the girls in the school holidays, but it expands his skill set. So he could be hanging TVs, he could be creating custom barn doors, installing cupboards, installing wardrobes, repairs, all of those sorts of things. So, yeah.
I'm just thinking it sounds like if you're a husband right now, maybe as a present, you gift your wife a gift certificate voucher for
Yeah.
Off the List.
It's a bit of a joke at the school gates when Tony pulls up on his van and all the parents go, "We've said to our husbands, if they don't get that job done this
You're
weekend,
coming around.
we're going to be ringing you." So, yeah, and it's fantastic. And that's been really interesting for me because obviously I am a business owner, but I'm a bigger business owner, I guess. I'm not doing the Xero, the payroll, those sorts of tasks. So it's been really interesting for me setting him up as a smaller business, helping with those terms and conditions, and just understanding Xero and quoting and systems and setting him up with emails and all of those sorts of things. So I've sort of been able to learn some more business skills.
Yeah, because I guess
as
you
well.
sort of jumped a little bit of that by going already
Mm.
to an existing business. You had the team already doing that kind of stuff
Mm. I
versus.
never used Xero. Like I knew we had Xero. I knew if I needed to look something up, how to do it. But I wasn't day to day reconciling or doing things. I sign off the payroll in the bank, but I don't set up the payroll or file with the IRD or those sorts of things. So I learned while he was learning, which was really interesting. And yeah, so small businesses, large businesses, you all have the same things. You all have to juggle. And so it is really important. So it's been really nice to have this conversation, Mitchell, to show that we're all in the same boat, and the more we talk about it, and the more we can support each other, the better.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome. So one more sort of shout out to you guys. I'm guessing that they'll just find you online. Can you do work around the country, or is it just Nelson that you primarily work on?
No, we can service clients all around the country. With technology, there's so many things we can do now with electronic signing and Zoom or Teams calls. So we have clients all throughout New Zealand, which is fantastic. Yes, we've got our website, we've got a Facebook and Instagram page. And yeah, more than happy to chat with anyone there. Would love some legal advice from people who keep it pretty real.
I love it. This has been Let's Talk Small Business. Maybe one day we'll have another chat again. Really appreciate it.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Mitchell. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Bye.
See you.
Let's Talk Small Business. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got value, hit subscribe, like, or drop a comment. It spreads the word and might just help another legend get their breakthrough.